beignets under a mountain of powdered sugar, a cocktail called Nicodemus, and mac and cheese as a vegetable. This week, we're in Alabama.
Traveling the world to bring you delicious dishes, tasty beverages, and interesting experiences. This is the Destination Eat Drink Podcast on the Radio Misfits Podcast Network.
I'm Brent Peterson. Welcome to Destination Eat Drink, the travel podcast for foodies. You've found the place where food and travel intersect at destinationeatdrink.com, on the Destination Eat Drink YouTube channel, and here on the Destination Eat Drink podcast. This week, my guest is Darley Newman, host and creator of the PBS TV show Travels with Darley. But first, if you like this podcast, do me a favor, rate and review the show. You'd be helping me out, and more importantly, you'll be helping other people find out about our little corner of the world where food and travel take center stage. And if you really like the show, please consider supporting us. You can do a one-time contribution in any amount at buymeacoffee.com/destinationeatdrink, and thank you very, very much. Darley Newman is the creative mind behind the wonderful show Travels with Darley on PBS. The brand new season, her 11th, has just debuted, so check your listings for when it airs on your PBS station. Darley talks with me about creating the episodes this season in Alabama. She talks about meat and three, fried green tomatoes, and local beer and cocktails. Plus, we discuss the merits of vegan cauliflower wings, and we get off on a tangent about movie, TV, and rock and roll tourism. Okay, I'm starving, so let's eat.
Destination Eat Drink.
Darley Newman, welcome back to Destination Eat Drink. It's great to have you back on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, and I can't wait to chat about some tasty topics.
I know, it's always so fun talking to you. You've got season 11 now of Travels with Darley out on PBS. Check your local listings. I've told you this before. What I always love about your show is that there's a food segment in it, but I feel now like you're really embracing foodie travel in your show. In fact, you've got 2 episodes on Alabama that are pretty much completely dedicated to food. Do you see it as a difference, as a shift with what you're presenting, or is this just an organic change, or is it more of the same and I'm just reading too much into it?
No, Brent, I'm definitely doing a lot on food, and I think it's because I've become personally obsessed with it.
Welcome to the club.
Yeah. No, and it's so funny because I think it's just happened once you start to travel, as you know, and try good foods in different places, it's so good. You have to seek it out. I mean, I seek it out in my home area of New York City every day. I think about it. I mean, it's weird, but I really feel that food is such a strong component to making your life happier and better. And if you can eat good things that you like that make you happy, it's a happiness factor. So, and I think food also says a lot about culture, and, the foods that we have in different places share with us, when we start to look at them, the history of that area and the culture that's there and the melting pot of peoples in various locations. And I think that's really interesting. So I've definitely been diving into it even more as we've been traveling and at home as well, but you'll definitely see it reflected in the upcoming season.
Preach on. I say it all the time on the podcast, and I repeat it because I think it's important. Food is culture, culture is food. And all kinds of artistic endeavors combine to create our culture. But, the one that I love to focus on, the one that I love to talk about is food. And I wanted to talk with you today about Alabama because you did 2 separate episodes of food in Alabama. So it must have been something that really struck you when you went there, that the food culture is extra special, extra important. What did you find when you went to Alabama? Because I'm a person, I've been to Alabama, but really briefly. Like I was road tripping from Georgia to Texas, and I think we stopped there for lunch halfway in, and that was it. That was my only experience in Alabama. So as I watch these episodes, I'm like, oh, wow, That's really cool. That's really interesting. That's something that I didn't know about. Tell me about your experience a little bit, Darley.
Well, Alabama is an underrated state for travel in general. And a lot of places that we go that I've been filming, including I just went back to North Dakota for a second time, people doesn't come to the top of their list necessarily every time for a vacation. But I've been to Alabama a number of times doing the Civil Rights Trail for 2 episodes and now 2 episodes on food. And I think when you watch these episodes, you'll discover that the food, as you're saying, Brent, is the culture, and it does share the history. Mobile has all these influences from the French being there, the Spanish being there. We go to Louisiana and we're in Lafayette and we're talking about Cajun Creole culture in this season. But in Alabama, wow, the diversity of food. You think about barbecue, you think about seafood, but we're talking about these amazing fresh oysters from the Gulf. We're talking about fried green tomatoes at the cafe that inspired Fannie Flagg to write her book that became the Fried Green Tomatoes motion picture that has like Kathy Bates and Mary Louise Parker. And these are places that you can visit. There's a hot dog place in Montgomery that's served all these celebrities throughout time. Hank Williams is eaten there, Martin Luther King Jr. It's on a historic route. I think Alabama is fascinating because there's so many restaurants and places that have been around for a very long time. And when I cover stuff, I do like to cover those places that have those deep roots because we want to film something that's going to be around in a couple of years when people continue to watch these episodes over and over again, but also because the fact that they've been around for so long, these restaurants and family-owned places, that really speaks highly of them. This place, the Bright Star that I went to, which was started by a family of Greek immigrants, and it's won a James Beard Award for its kind of almost like the heritage of what is there. They serve these snapper throats, which I would have never thought about tasting or trying before, and they were absolutely delicious. I mean, there's just some really, really fascinating places to eat in Alabama and places that have these deep roots and a lot of history that you can learn when you go there to try something.
Let's dive into some of the dishes and some of the places specifically. The first thing I want to ask you about is meat in 3, because this was a concept I wasn't familiar with until I went to South Carolina the first time and I started seeing meat in 3 on menus. So a lot of folks, maybe like me, are not familiar with meat in 3 if they're not from the South or they haven't spent any time there. So first of all, what is meat in 3 and what kind of places would you suggest going to in Alabama to get the best meat in 3?
Well, there's meat in 3 is kind of a traditional Southern way to eat where you can go into a place or even have it at home and you have your choice of meats and you have your choice of different side dishes. And if you are like me or so many people I know, the sides are really important to a meal. And not only can they be so healthy and complementary if you diversify and pick through them, but they can also just add, it's almost like the Spanish tapas where you get to try. Yeah, with your meal. And one thing that's great about Alabama meat in 3 that I discovered there's a restaurant called the Noble South, which is really amazing and they're sourcing things in the Mobile area, but throughout Alabama from local farms. So when you have meat in 3 there, the vegetables are coming from these, different local farms in Alabama and beyond. And you're getting something healthy and you're supporting farmers when you eat there. But then I went to this other place, City Cafe, which has been around for a very long time. And I got to speak with the owner who grew up in the restaurant. A lot of people grew up literally like being there when they were kids with their parents running these places. And that's something special. And they're carrying down those traditions. But I had like a hamburger steak at the City Cafe. Well, it's outside of Tuscaloosa in Northport. And it was smothered with like onions and gravy, and I picked like cabbage, and I had greens with it, and I had potato dish and cobbler. It just was really delicious and diverse. And so when you go to a place like a meat in 3, like I wish there were some around my area of New York City, and there would be, but it would be a little bit different. But it's that complete meal that you want to have sometimes when you're feeling like, this is a complete meal experience, and you can find it in a lot of places in Alabama.
And when you get the 3, people think, oh, it's going to be all veggies, and you can get, your greens and whatnot. But, I always got to get the mac and cheese as one of my 3s on the side.
Well, it's so funny you say that because it's Chef Chris Reinashek, who was with me at the Noble South. He was like, well, everyone's favorite other vegetable, the macaroni and cheese. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love it. That's one of my favorite dishes, and I will gladly call it a vegetable if I can put it on the side. So really, really tasty.
And then on the other side of the meat and 3 is this idea for vegans. Our vegan friends, we're going to take care of them in Mobile at a place called Plant Bay, BAE. And I was so glad to see this place for a couple of reasons. One, to give people who don't eat meat or who are curious about not eating meat an option. But also, this is owned by an African-American woman or couple. I can't remember which. But it reminded me of when we were in Georgia. There was this place called, and this name is really funny, and maybe some people will find it offensive, but there was a place that was just getting started about 3-4 years ago called Slutty Vegan. And it's run by an African-American lady. And I knew I was going to talk to you, Darley, so I looked it up. She's now in 11 locations, most of them in Georgia, but I think there's one in Alabama, and there's a couple in New York. There's one in Brooklyn I saw. So you're going to have to check this out near your home. But tell me a little bit about Plant Bay, because I loved seeing this on your show.
So, in this season, we cover vegan at Plant Bay in Montgomery with Dr. QB Merritt is her name. And she actually started this because she was personally looking to try to eat more healthy foods because she had gone to the doctor and seen that her cholesterol was getting higher. And she started to just do a plant-based diet for a while, and it was working for her. And she thought, wow, I think this is like a hole in the marketplace in this area. And it's funny because it's only a couple of blocks from Chris's Hot Dogs. So it's like, I guess if you were out with your family and you're touring around Montgomery, you could say, oh, if some people want to go eat some healthy vegan, they can go right there, and the others can go over and have a hot dog at Chris's Hot Dogs. So you have your choices. But she does a meatless version of meat in 3. And I thought it was really cool. Her cauliflower wings looked like chicken wings, and she had them all like battered up. I mean, it looked like I was about to eat fried chicken and I was eating cauliflower wings. And she had a vegan mac and cheese option and collard greens and lima beans. I had a Philly. It was kind of like a Philly. It looked like a Philly cheesesteak, and it actually tasted quite similar to that. It was using Beyond Meat. So just something different that I think people are seeking out. A lot of modern travelers, they want to have these different things that they might eat at home. I mean, they want to try things and experiment when they're traveling, but sometimes you want to be able, if you're vegan or vegetarian, you want to look for those options, obviously, when you're on the road. And this is an exceptional place to have that in Montgomery. And it's funny because we also, in this season, I'm going to South Korea and I'm also trying vegan food there. So, we're looking at these different diverse options that people might want to have when they're traveling that are really exceptional in these different areas.
I love the vegan cauliflower wings. I'm using air quotes for wings here. We're just in the U.S., and our friends took us to a place in Chicago. They've just opened a brand new all vegan food hall in Chicago. And it's really good. And one of the stalls we went to had these vegan cauliflower wings. And I was like, you know what? It makes total sense, because the best part of the wing is that hot sauce. I don't care about the other stuff as much. It's like the interesting of the hot sauce. And if it's cooked properly, as long as the cauliflower doesn't get mushy, you can get a nice bite to it. It's incredibly delicious, and that sauce kind of absorbs into the cauliflower. It's a great combination, I think.
I was excited. I was like, I love trying new things when we're traveling and in life in general, and to be able to have these different options where, maybe you don't want to have meat one day, and, or if you are vegan, this option is there and it's really good. And I thought it was really neat, her background and her choice to try to present things to people so they can have that healthier food option when they're in Montgomery. I just thought that was almost like a public service. I was like, okay.
You did mention, Darley, fried green tomatoes, and that's a dish that I was not familiar with until the movie came out. And I don't think I had fried green tomatoes actually until many years later. You want to maybe go into a little bit about fried green tomatoes, and its importance. It's everywhere on menus in the South. I guess in Alabama, it's everywhere. It's a wonderful little dish. I never realized how good it was until I actually had it.
Yeah, there's a really different flavor profile, and they're a bit like the tomatoes themselves can be a bit like more dense, crispy, and kind of hard than your traditional red tomato. And then when they're fried up, and it's so much goes into frying these foods that you don't even think about, which I've thought about more because I've been traveling to so many places where I'm eating fried foods. But, people are using a lot of different batters and things when they're frying, and that makes such a difference. You think it sounds obvious, but it's really true. And hearing the different ways that people are creating these batters and doing these things to fry them and then to have that stick is really interesting. I mean, I was just at a corn dog place and on Route 66 in Illinois, learning about how they're doing the corn dogs, and a fried chicken place as well on Route 66 that had this. It was exceptional. But the fried green tomatoes, I just thought it was neat. I really wanted to go to Irondale Cafe. It's in Irondale, Alabama, and it's a kind of place where you can sit inside or outside, but there's trains going by right across from the cafe. It's a very small town, and people do go there because they're wanting to have the fried green tomatoes at that specific location. And you can, again, order from a variety of different dishes on this like big chalkboard that's on the wall. And it's kind of like cafeteria style, but again, you've got to go for the fried green tomatoes and you bite into them. It's like the crispy fried goodness on the outside, a little bit of a harder, but zesty tomato on the inside. And I was like, wow, I would travel here again to eat these, and also to be in that setting of this small town with the trains going by. And you think about the history and the book that was written based on, this Fannie Flagg's experiences at this cafe, and then got turned into this major motion picture. And I think that's really neat. A lot of people are traveling to go to movie locations, but when you can combine food with history and film sites, I think it's a pretty strong winning combination if you're in Alabama.
Yeah, we talk about food tourism on this show a lot, but this idea of film tourism has really taken off recently. And, I had Portia Jones on the show, and we talked about this idea of film tourism, and she and I both agree that a lot of the credit goes to Harry Potter and Game of Thrones. These are the ones that really jump-started this idea. Although it's been around for many years, this has really become a big thing now, and in some ways it's become a problem in places like Dubrovnik because everyone wants to go to see these Game of Thrones locations, and it's, clogging up the city. No one else can get in or out.
And actually, it's so funny you say that, because in my original first seasons, I was over in the UK, and I rode the train that's in that takes the kids to Hogwarts. Right. That's in. And but I thought it was, I do seek out those places too. And I understand why people do. I mean, we see them in the movies, and then you want to go to either a location where something was actually filmed or the place where someone came up with the idea to write the story. I think both are pretty cool, and both exist in so many different places. And I think it's fun because a lot of these big movies, they reach so many people, and they then create almost like a shared memory among us. So being able to travel and go to a location where, we can all relate to something is kind of fun. It's kind of neat.
It's a cool idea. I really like it a lot myself. And I have this other thing of rock and roll tourism that is not a thing. It's just a me thing. But I like going to places that are, like on album covers. Back when albums were a thing. I'm dating myself here. Or where records were recorded, or where people wrote songs. I find that incredibly fascinating. Like, is there something in the air? Is there something in the water that sparks this creativity? So that's another thing that kind of relates to film tourism and food tourism is rock and roll tourism. Although I think I'm one of the few people who actually engages in that.
No, I mean, I don't know if I've mentioned this to you. John D'Amico does a rock and roll tour of Los Angeles. It's featured in my LA episode, actually. And I think you would love that.
Wow.
Hollywood and West Hollywood. And he takes you to sites. And I went to the Viper Room and all these different, and then some different clubs and places where a lot of people have played. And it's a pretty cool thing. I'm into it as well.
You live in New York, so that would be an ideal place for some enterprising young person to come up with a rock and roll tour of New York City. You could go to the tenement where the Physical Graffiti album is from, or you could go to where Bruce Springsteen recorded Born to Run in New York, or any I mean, there's a billion places. Some of them well known, some of them less well known.
Yeah, Manchester, England. I have in my Manchester episode Salford Lads Club, which was the Smiths album, The Queen is Dead. And this guy does a Manchester taxi tour. You can go around in his black cab around Manchester, and he takes you to historic sites, including music locations. So I think it's so funny because if you think of something you want to do on your travels, someone out there is probably there to take you around. You might have to dig a little, but they exist.
Well, let's get back to food because I want to talk about beignets. When we lived in Austin, we used to go to New Orleans all the time because it's a quick little flight. And I have my favorite beignet places in New Orleans. But I guess shame on me for not realizing. Of course, there's a French influence all over this region of the United States. And of course, beignets are going to make their way to other places besides just New Orleans. You had a beignet in Mobile, and I got to say, it looked a little bit different than the beignets that I've had in New Orleans because your powdered sugar was piled as high as Mount Everest on that thing. And I'm not used to seeing that much powdered sugar on a beignet.
Oh my God, that sounds so good right now too. I would totally love to have one. They're known for their different syrups at Mauvais Beignet, and it's a women-owned business, and she started small and grew it out, and they've got this amazing buttercream syrup that you can put on your beignets or cinnamon, and they change the different syrups, but I choked a bit on, it's in the behind the scenes outtakes, on the powdered sugar because I almost inhaled this beignet when but the cool thing is you can walk into this place and you see them making the beignets right there. You can get one that literally is just they hand it to you. It just came out of the fryer, and they make them every day from scratch. And something made from scratch just has a different flavor. And when you're using those kind of like homespun ingredients to make something, I think it just changes the flavor profile in such a authentic way, which I love. And I thought this place is really cool because it's in downtown Mobile. And while I was there, I ran into a food tour company that was leading travelers there as part of their food tour. And that also speaks highly about the location and that specific Mauvais Beignet place, because when there's a food tour company going there and it's one of these smaller food tour adventures, you know that it's going to be good because that's their whole business, is taking you to really tasty and more unique places. So, I loved these beignets, and they were a little bit different, but they were just so light and airy, and putting these different syrups and having the choices. I tried all of them, and I was like, because you have to, right?
Of course. There's nothing like a beignet fresh out of the fryer later. I mean, it's a life-changing experience, right? I want to talk a little bit about drinks because I know you, Darley, you enjoy having an occasional beer or an occasional cocktail. Tell me what kind of beer did you enjoy when you were on your Alabama food road trip?
Well, I had beer and I had some pretty strong cocktails in a variety of places. So at Druid City Brewing, I was just in Tuscaloosa and trying some craft beer with this guy, Seth Wright. And I thought this place was a standout. The craft beer is different everywhere you go because of the different water that's being used, because of the different hops, where they're sourcing things from. I've learned a lot about beer on my travels as of, the past few years as I've been drinking around the world and across the USA. And I thought this place was really cool because they're very, very much trying to foster community there, but it also has like retro games, and they've got an open mic night. I was actually there for open mic night, and locals were performing. And that's another thing that I've been finding in this season that we're highlighting in our travels in general, is these places where you come to do one thing, but you can do many others, because they are trying to get people to come for different occasions, different nights, get families to come in some cases. And the ones that foster also local music and local products, I think that's a huge win when we have that artistry that comes in. There's also local artwork at a lot of these places that you can travel where they're trying to bring the community in. And I think that makes it really special. So that was one place that, I had to go and check out the craft beer scene, and I found it to be very active and vibrant, and people had, their pets there too, which is always fun because I'm a huge dog lover. So I'm like, oh my gosh, when dogs and beer are involved, I'm like, how can you not want to be here? And then we also went to Nick's in the Sticks, which is a long time Tuscaloosa outpost where it was started and known for having inexpensive steaks, but also very strong cocktails. And they have a cocktail called the Nicodemus, which is made with this shot of 151 on top. And it's a hurricane mix with like 80 proof rum. So it is really, really strong, but actually it was dangerously, I know, I tasted it and I was like, I really don't taste the alcohol, which is probably a problem. But, that's a fun place, too. If you want to travel and go to a place where the locals actually go, the Alabama episodes have a lot of those. I mean, we sought out places that some of the university students go to. And then, for instance, Nick's in the Sticks, it's not just university students, but the students who went there years ago continue to go. And then they bring their kids, and then they bring their grandkids, believe it or not. And they go there to like hang out and feel, the vibes of this college area, which I thought was pretty cool. I just think you have to have a designated driver on that one.
Absolutely.
Because those drinks were really creeping up on me.
Right.
I was like, yeah.
What about the speakeasy that you went to in Mobile in the old bank vault?
This one I thought was pretty awesome as well. Las Floriditas. It was hard to find because we kind of did it as almost like a trick because like I guess somebody could have really known exactly where it was, but we just kind of knew that it was downstairs in this old kind of like office bank building. And I go to speakeasies all the time in New York and other places. And I was like, where is this place? But once you get inside, I met with the owner, Bob Baumhauer, who is a former professional football player. And actually a lot of football players work there. The bouncer was a former football player, one of the chefs as well. So if you're looking to meet some tall, strong people, they're here at Las Floriditas. And they are also doing this kind of take on Cuban cocktails, and they've got a Cuba Hemingway theme going on in there. And I thought the food was exceptional, and also the drinks were very, very good. So, and just a fun place to try to find when you're in Mobile, which again melds a lot of different cultures and history from the area. I also went to Fort Conde, which is a museum in Mobile. And I thought that was another good thing to do while I was there, eating my way through the city, because it really contextualizes that history of, when were the French here? When were the Spanish here? How did Mobile get these different influences? Because when you're eating there, you're seeing the influences through the food, and then you can go and take a step back in time with the history a bit more at the local museum. So a variety of ways to eat and learn when you're in the city. And of course, at the end of the day, after you've been touring around and, of course, having a couple of meals already, you might as well go to a speakeasy and have a cocktail.
That's right. Well, Darley, it's been great talking to you. I mean, we focus now on these 2 episodes that you did on Alabama, but you got 13 episodes in the new season, and I'd like to talk to you about some more of the places that you visit on season 11 of Travels with Darley. Can you come back next week and talk some more about some of these places that you visited and some of the food that you ate along the way?
Oh, for sure. I mean, we've got Lafayette, Louisiana. I've done American Revolution history in New Jersey, South Carolina, and South Korea. So we have a lot of different episodes in this season that combine food with history and culture, and yeah, lots of beautiful places too.
Okay, that's the super talented Darley Newman. So great talking to her. Be sure to catch the new season of Travels with Darley on PBS. Darley also has a brand new podcast. It's also called Travels with Darley. Get that wherever you get podcasts. And you can find out more about Darley at darley-newman.com. I've got a link to her website in the show notes at radiomisfits.com/DED267. And like I said, Darley will be back next week to talk about more of her season 11 adventures on Travels with Darley, including a great music festival in Louisiana, staying in a Buddhist temple in South Korea, and much more. Until then, get over to destinationeatdrink.com. I just posted a new video about a cocktail crawl in Newport, Rhode Island, including a cocktail with a budget-busting price tag. You can see that by clicking on the video tab at destinationeatdrink.com or by going to the YouTube channel at Destination Eat Drink 946. There's also a new story about a simple but delicious cookie in Portugal. Read that at destinationeatdrink.com. Destination Eat Drink is distributed by the Radio Misfits Podcast Network and Ed Silla. Thanks, Ed. I'm Brent Peterson. I'll see you down the road.
Join us next week for another culinary adventure on Destination Eat Drink, a presentation of the Radio Misfits Podcast Network.